Okay, good evening. The special meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bridget, our mission statement, please.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Roll call.
Deb?
Here.
Angela? Here. Myself, I'm here. Kyle is going to be joining us with notice. Later. Danielle is absent with notice. Margaret? Here. Sherry? Here. Thank you all. We have a quorum.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda as presented in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a public comment section right now. I'm just asking if anybody has public comments that we hold them to the general meeting. Okay. I need a motion for the resolution to consider a designation of electoral rep for the MISD election.
So, pardon me, should we ask if anybody
Oh,
wants to
sorry.
volunteer to do it?
Thank you. Is there any volunteers or who would be interested in going and placing our vote?
I can do it. I did it before, so I know.
Okay, so Sherry is, okay, so we have one, and I know we don't have to. Are there anybody else interested? We do need a alternate.
I'll be the alternate since I'm over that way anyways.
Okay, so we have Sherry as our nomination as our rep. Margaret will be our alternate. Now I am looking for a motion.
I move to accept the nomination of Sherry Zuby as the electoral representative and myself, Margaret Telto, as alternate electoral representative for the Richmond Community Schools Board of Education to attend the Macomb Intermediate School District biennial election on Monday, June 7, 2021, as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have some? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There being no further business on our special meeting, we will adjourn at 6:48. Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I respectfully ask that if you are here this evening that you please wear a mask. There are some on the counter if you need them. It is still part of our board policy or our policy right now until we can change it. Thank you. Mission.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community.
Roll call.
Devon?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
I'm here. Kyle will be joining us later with notice. Danielle is absent with notice. Margaret?
Here.
And Sherry?
Here.
Thank you guys. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We are going to make some adjustments to our agenda. We are removing item 10B from the agenda, and we are changing 14G to develop a committee for the commemoration of a school building. And we are adding an H, which is approval of a 3-year agreement between the food service and the Board of Education of Richmond Community Schools. I'm looking for a motion to approve the changed agenda.
I move to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Do I have a support? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I am looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Going to do discussion and introduce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Boy. Okay, back to the discussion piece on that, even though we all voted on it. Mr. Walmsley?
Just to recognize Deb Dobbs will be retiring as our transportation director as of June 30th this year. We'll be recognizing her as well as the other retirees for this school year, an upcoming board member. We had 2 resignations upcoming in the food service department, Haley Reed and Kelly Vandeker. We have 2 new hires. Emily Matthews, our child care assistant at the elementary school. And then we have our, not a new hire, he's already been hired by the district, but an appointment as a varsity head football coach, Sean Misko, who is here tonight.
You good?
Yes.
I think he wants to speak.
No, I'm just looking forward to it. Wanted to come and say hi to everyone and say thank you for the opportunity, and we'll let you know.
Okay. I am looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the student's parent, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline of a student whose identity is known as student 052421-A.
Do I have support? Support. Any discussion? Okay. This is, I don't need a roll call vote, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The board will be going into closed session at 7:08. Okay, the board has returned back from closed session at 7:50. Okay, I am looking for a motion to go back into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8D of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the student's parent, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline of a student whose identity is known as student 052421-B.
Do I have a support? Support. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will be going into closed session at 7:52. Okay, the board is returning from closed session at 8:46. Okay, Mr. Walmsley, bond update.
Okay, I'll just do a quick update for you. Last week and this week, the windows at the additions at the elementary school are being put in. You'll see some of the cement work for the new entranceways, the robotics, as well as the entranceway to the new culinary arts restaurant should be poured this week. The entranceway to the new middle school secure vestibule, the brickwork has been done, so you'll start seeing the canopy and stuff going up on that aspect. It is looking like that due to the asbestos abatement that we're going to need to do and moving everything out of the building, that June 11th, we will more than likely not have school that day, that last day, because of the amount of stuff that we have to get out of the building and the abatement that needs to take place in order to keep the bond project so that we can open school on time in the fall. We've had many projects come, started and worked after hours and so forth as much as we can, but there's still a lot of abatement that has to be done in the classrooms, and we can't do any of the construction until that abatement gets done. So that communication will go out to parents after Memorial Day, or with it this week, normally by the end of this week, with the Memorial Day message, just to let them know and prepare. Other than that, we're moving ahead.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to our presentations. At this time, we were going to, Mr. Walmsley will fill us in on our COVID-19 learning plan.
The plan in your packet, the recommend, we've had, the attendance that we report, remember the attendance for the COVID-19 learning plan is we have to have 2 attendance codes per week per student. It doesn't measure every single day, but it does measure at least 2 per week per student. So the latest one, when you look at the May, we are averaging between that around 99% attendance rates using this this method. Also, we just have to remind that this method, as I've said over and over each month, is to accommodate every school district in the state of Michigan how they've done a virtual learning option. Our students probably have had, or one of the few that have the most instructional time virtually. The plan, I do not recommend formally changing the plan for the instructional options. I would ask that we keep for the remainder, we have about 13, 12 days-ish left of school, that we keep the option of in-person and virtual. I would recommend the board amend the plan to accommodate for the, to allow for grade level awards, to allow for assemblies. A lot of the end of the year stuff with some of the restrictions allow us to do more of those items. So we'd like to do that as a building where we can, and providing as much safety as possible. Walking field trips it would allow, by allowing the alterations in the logistics of the plan. It recognizes the change with MHSAA in the mask for sports. And again, for the last 12 days, I would recommend that we remain with just the mask in school for the 12 days that we have left. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, we are required to have a public comment section regarding our COVID-19 learning plan. If you are interested, you may step up to the podium. There's a sheet up there. If you could just please state your name and put a contact information on there, and you will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on the COVID-19 plan? Sure. Can we just, give us your name, please?
Okay. My name is Colleen Lanu, and I am the mother of a 3rd grade student at Bellelly. And I would like to start off by saying I appreciate the unique and difficult circumstances that you guys have had to navigate this year. And I thank you for your time and your commitment to our children in our district. My husband and I are proud Richmond alumni, and our daughter is a 5th-generation student at Richmond schools. And I opted for the virtual option this fall, not because of fear of COVID, but because I did not want my child messed up for 7 hours a day and bounced in and out of school every time she was in close contact with a positive case. And I honestly thought this would all eventually go away and she could return as normal, but normal never happened. And her grades began to suffer, as did her mental well-being. She missed her friends and became withdrawn, losing herself in the matrix of computers and electronics. And so the decision to return to school was one we had to make. And while it is still not normal, not the normal she and the rest of our children deserve, it seems to be the alternative. But there are days that she comes home in tears because she has had a head and stomach ache from breathing in the mask all day. And she says she can't wait for lunch, so she has a chance to take it off and breathe again. And so I asked her if she wants to go virtual again, and she says no, because she will miss her friends too much. And that answer breaks my heart as a parent, because no child should have to endure physical pain in the hopes that it will outweigh the emotional pain of isolation. So I'm concerned, because it has become evident that there's no end game here. When we were all sold 2 weeks to flatten the curve, we shut down, complied, and adapted. But over a year later, that 2 weeks continues to evolve and branch out with new regulations and expectations. And it seems our children, who account for only 10% of COVID-19 cases, mostly asymptomatic, are the ones who bear the greatest burden of all. And we're expecting them to sacrifice their childhood, their relationships, their hobbies, even their ability to freely breathe in order to possibly save a small percentage of the population, of which the majority are already ill or in their latter years of life. Children need to be protected, not the protectors. And as adults, I think it's time that we reassume our roles and stand up and give them the voice and protection that they deserve. So my hope is that we can come together as parents and administrators and in collective with the many voices of other districts across our great state and country to challenge our government leaders to relinquish their tyrannical control and give back our freedoms in order to prioritize the health and success of this next generation. Our government has grossly overreached their control and taken away the simple freedom to choose what is best for the individual. And until we, the people, stand up and stand together, I'm confident we will only further this descent into subjugation. If our children be forced to wear masks, endure rapid testing, or receive experimental vaccines in order to participate in the school year ahead, I just want to say that my family's 5-generation history with Richmond schools will sadly be coming to an end, as I will be pulling my student from the roster to homeschool with several other families who are ready to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jill Manchek. I currently have a 1st and 5th grader, and my youngest will be in kindergarten in another year. I'm a proud alumni and feel fortunate that my children will grow up in this wonderful community and district. So it pains me to say that as of late, given the current environment, I'm not so sure anymore. I think it's safe to say that all of us in this room have had a trying year from the ever-changing guidelines and mandates placed on the district and our students. I have growing concerns over the uncertainty of the upcoming school year and the current potential future COVID policies being placed on the children in our school and throughout the state. Frequent testing of asymptomatic students, excessive quarantine, mask wearing, experimental vaccine pressure, potential segregation based on vaccine status, etc. Our students are the least affected by this virus. They are the most affected by these policies. How is that okay? On January 11th this year, this board took a constitutional oath of office to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. I invite the board to review 2 school codes. 1, Michigan School Code 380.10, Rights of Parents and Legal Guardians, Duties of Public Schools, states it is the natural fundamental right of parents and legal guardians to determine and direct the care, teaching, and education of their children. The public schools of this state serve the need of the pupils by cooperating with the pupils' parents and legal guardians to develop the pupils' intellectual capabilities and vocational skills in a safe and positive environment. 2, Michigan School Code 380.1307B states the following practices are prohibited for school personnel in public schools of this state under all circumstances, including emergency situations. Section H, any restraint that negatively impacts breathing. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services requiring schools to follow these mandates is in direct conflict with the above codes and your oath of office. How can mandates from the health department supersede our Constitution? A few months ago, in a letter home to the parents, we were asked to contact our legislators, expressing our concerns related to the mandates. I've done that. I've contacted everyone I can, and all I ever receive is an automated email back. Tonight, I'm asking this board to do the same. I'm asking the board to take a stand to both the state and local health department, put an end to the mask mandates, the testing mandate. There isn't any data to support the efficacy, and many other states are operating safely without them. Protect the students' right to medical privacy and support the parents' right to choose what is medically best for their own child. Children's medical decisions have always been up to the parents with their doctor if they choose. Schools should not be in charge of making medical decisions for our children. Lastly, myself and many others are willing to work with the board to do what is best for our kids. Work with the board and do what it takes for us parents, us as a district, to regain the power to choose. While we may all have different opinions, I can say with confidence, we are all here tonight because we want what is best for our children. We can do better, and our children deserve better. And my kids have something to say too.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm in 5th grade and 11 years old. This year has been very tough for all of us, including me. It wasn't all bad though. I'm still very happy I got to see friends and maybe ones. I didn't like the fact that they put in masks though. I was not sick, nobody was. Being put in a mask is a choice, and I choose not to. When you wear a mask, you are breathing in your own germs and can get sick. It would be a lot better if you didn't have everybody in a mask next year and previous months.
Mrs. Michelle, I don't think that microphone's on at all, because it certainly doesn't sound like anything's coming out.
Thank you, Nick.
Did you hear about?
I heard her,
I heard.
but I was really straining. No, you don't.
No, you're good.
No, you don't have to, I just.
Hi, my name is Stella Manson. I love this kindness because she helps us all the time. My favorite part was staying still and not going virtual. I do not like masks because they make it hard when I'm worried. And sometimes it gives me headaches. I hope I do not have to wear masks and
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole Turowski. My husband and I own a house and a business here in Lenox and are a part of Richmond school community. We have two sons at Will L. Lee Elementary, one currently in 1st grade and the other in preschool. I am writing this letter with concerns of what's to come for my children. Now I am hearing the plans are to allow kids with COVID vaccine to come back to school in the fall without masks, but children who are not vaccinated still have to wear a mask. But you guys allow how many children to attend school without other vaccines and their parents just have to sign a waiver. But it's okay for my child to sit next to those children that aren't vaccinated. We live in America where we should be able to decide what's best for our children. When my son's in school, he should never be refused hydration. His last special was gym, and the gym teacher makes them run around up and down the gym, or when it's nice outside on the track, and then refuses them water. He came home 3 days in a row, literally in tears, because he told his teacher he was having a hard time breathing and needed a drink, and he told him he'll be fine. The first day, my child even complained that his heart hurt and was just pushed aside. I'm really upset that the teacher doesn't even care about the well-being of our children. The drinking fountains were in non-working order at the time because of COVID, that we're not allowed to bring their own, and we're not allowed to bring their own personal water bottles to class. When I addressed Mr. Barnes, his reply was, unfortunately, we haven't been allowing water bottles in gym class, mostly because our little guys and gals have had more spills and accidents tripping on water bottles and slipping on water spots over the years. Luckily, we haven't had any issues. The teachers have been really good about letting their kids get water before class and as soon as they get back. Of course, their teachers let them get a drink when they get back to class because they're so overexerted. I don't know if he seems to have forgotten, but this year isn't like the rest. The rest of the years, our children were not forced to wear masks in any setting, let alone gym class. I find it hard to believe I am the only parent that has had this issue, not to mention the health risks that this puts on our children wearing masks for 7 hours a day, what it's doing to them mentally. My child complains of headaches and stomach aches sometimes, which he has never had problems with. He started chewing his nails, and I took him to the pediatrician, and she says it's from anxiety. And I even told her, I can't imagine why. The revised school code, as of March 2017, states that the following practices are prohibited from school personnel in the public schools of the state under all circumstances. And the one that stands out most is, as stated in Section 8, any restraint that negatively impacts breathing. We elect you guys as our school board members to stand up for our kids. You guys are now allowing the government to use our children as part of their agenda. We all need to stand up together and fight for our kids. Thank you guys.
Hello, my name is Amy Steyer. My husband and I have a first grader in Willie Elementary. She is virtual, and the reason she's virtual is not because of COVID, because I will not have her wearing a mask all day. I will not have her contact trace. I can take care of my child, and I won't have her think this is normal. I'm writing and expressing this to you, and I shouldn't. I should be allowed to make medical choices for my child as their parent while in school, yet here I'm not. How sad is that? These masks need to go. They should be for personal choice. They're filthy, disgusting, and causing more harm than good. They're physically and mentally hurting our children. Children have immune systems for a reason. Enough is enough. Are we going to mask up every cold and flu season? Are we going to act like kids just can't get sick anymore? The science shows our children are not super spreaders, yet we continue with this ridiculousness. And let's look at the logic. If these life-saving masks help, then why, if a child is possibly or exposed, do they have to quarantine? When the masks work, why then have them wear it at all? As far as vaccines, I've heard a lot of schools saying that now vaccinated children will not have to wear masks and unvaccinated still have to wear them. Why should we mask up for the vaccinated? They're protected because their vaccines work, right? That is segregating our children, and that is also allowing others to know the medical choice of another. There are unvaccinated children in schools now. Are they labeled? Are we allowed to know who they are? No, we are not. We have unvaccinated kids that have not had to wear masks all along. If a person is vaccinated, they should not worry about someone else that is not. We are all parents, and we deserve to make choices we feel fit for our children, plain and simple. Last year, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Then it was cases and deaths. Then it was cases. Now here we are, a year and a half later, and it's if you don't do this, then you have to wear a mask until you do. For me, that's outrageous. This is government overreach, and our children are suffering in the pawns in the game. As a parent, I will not allow my child to think this is normal, and I will not allow the conditioning that has been shoved at us. If masks are put into play next year, I am contemplating pulling my child from the Richmond schools. If unvaccinated children have to wear masks while vaccinated do not, I will pull my child indefinitely. Enough is enough. Our children deserve better. And since we don't vote for the CDC or the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, but for you people, for you, you should be the one we hope would stand up and do the right thing and stand up for our children.
Board members. I know this has been a very challenging year for you all, and I appreciate everything that you have done to try and make this school year as normal as possible for our children. I am here today to speak up about my deep concerns with the COVID mandates and what our school is going to look like for the upcoming school year. When I first started writing this letter, I started to write about my experiences over the past year and how all of these mandates have negatively impacted my children. But to be honest, I feel like I would be wasting my breath and my 3 minutes, because today is not about the past, it is about the future. So So here we are today on May 24th, 2021. Mask mandates are beginning to lift in the state of Michigan for those who are vaccinated. Unvaccinated people can unmask July 1st. So where does this leave our children? We are in limbo, waiting for direction. So I am seeing other school districts starting to release their plan for next school year. Some of them making masks optional only if the health department will allow it. If I were to guess, Richmond will follow suit. But here we are today with a big question mark, and as usual, waiting to be told what we are allowed or not allowed to do from other agencies. I think that we are beginning to get a little too comfortable with letting the government dictate our lives. I'm here today to urge you, our elected officials, to make a decision to stand with us parents and fight back, to take back control of our school and our children. Just as we have come together today as parents, schools around Michigan need to work with one another and band together to stand up against the ongoing government overreach. I do not want to hear that your hands are tied come fall, especially if you don't even try. We are here to support you in any way necessary. You led the way last fall when you started school in person and other districts stayed virtual. I was so proud to be a part of this school. Please do the right thing today and make the decision to stand up for your school and your community. Other states, including Texas and Iowa, have recently started to ban mask mandates in schools. All while our governor and health department here in Michigan decided that it was time for 2-year-olds to start being forced to wear masks. This is just wrong. How can we trust our leaders if they themselves don't even follow their own rules? I'm seeing too much hypocrisy to blindly follow them. If the district or the health department decide to mandate masks in schools come fall, the message will be clear. Either vaccinate your child or wear a mask until you do. This is unacceptable. As of today, straight from the American Academy of Pediatrics website, updated on May 13th, of 43 states reporting child COVID-19 cases that result in death are 0.00% to 0.03%, and 9 states reported 0 deaths. For 0.03%, we are doing this to our children. They are the least vulnerable, but yet have been hit the hardest with all of these mandates and regulations. Enough is enough. Come fall, there will be no logical reason why we as parents should not have the basic freedom to decide whether our children will wear a mask or not. Forced masking, along with excessive testing and quarantining, need to come to an end. This is more than just a mask issue to me. This is a freedom issue. And as much as it would break my heart and devastate my children, I feel I will have no choice but to pull them from this school if masks are not optional come fall. I am pleading with you to please take the stand with us today. Thank you.
Now, excuse me, you didn't give a name. Can I have your name? I'm sorry. Thank you.
My name is Corey Lasseter. Thank you for your time and attention. I want to acknowledge the varying opinions and feelings related to the pandemic, as well as the great efforts and the difficult discussions and decision-making that have undoubtedly had to happen over the past 2.5 by our school board, staff and faculty, and by parents. I'm simply here to be a voice for my children. My daughter attended leave from K through 3rd and was supposed to attend 4th grade this school year. Instead, we chose homeschool. Our son is eligible to start kindergarten in the fall. We want to send my children to Richmond to be with their peers, but they will not be attending any school that requires them to wear a mask, whether vaccinated or not, or to be tested for COVID-19. Most children who become infected with the COVID virus have no symptoms, or they have mild symptoms, low-grade fever, fatigue, and cough. The risk of children dying is extraordinarily low. COVID-19 patients under the age of 20 are 17 times as likely to die due to other causes of death. Regarding the mask requirement, Can someone point to a trusted source that will state that my child is safer wearing a mask than without, or that health risks with a mask are less than without? Are social, emotional, and mental health components being considered? Where is the research to support that it is safe for my children to wear unregulated masks across their noses and mouths for an unlimited number of hours per day during various levels of physical activity? Can anyone cite published data that's well-researched and peer-reviewed that indicates my child wearing a mask makes others safer? Just last week, Harvard Medical School published that early studies suggested children do not contribute much to the spread of coronavirus. But more recent studies raise concerns that children could be capable of spreading the infection. It seems the latest research still does not prove that children are infectious. Which leads me to the vaccine that is not designed or proven to prevent an individual from contracting the virus or from transmitting the virus. It only aims to prevent severe symptoms of COVID-19 disease. So why in the future would only vaccinated children be exempt from a facial mask requirement? What precedents have we set? What are we teaching our children about fear and health and rational decision-making through this pandemic experience? People living in fear, the media, and public policy not founded on facts will not force me into compliance so my children can attend public school. I will not be manipulated to surrender my rights as a parent or as their advocate. I will not sacrifice what I know to be best for them and their health and their childhood. Let's be transparent. We voluntarily expose ourselves and our children to higher levels of risk on a daily basis. Driving in a car and being overweight carry greater health and fatality risks than COVID-19. It's well documented and a reality. Respectfully, I'm asking for answers to my questions. I'm asking the board to push for valid strategies based on solid science and ethical guidance so that children can go to school in a positive environment. And I'm asking that the school district, health departments, and every other government agency enforcing mask mandates, testing, and vaccines prove their safety. If masks, testings, or vaccination are required for my children to attend any school ever, then my children will not. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beth. I'm actually coming to you as not just a parent of 2 children in Richmond, but as a medical provider. I haven't been masked since September. We all have COVID antibodies. My children were contact traced and were not able to come to school because the contact tracing, but they had the antibodies, but the school didn't really care that they had the antibodies. My children have missed out on sports this year. My children's grades, they used to be 4.0. I have a child in middle school who is exceptionally above his grade, and everything has dropped this year. My daughter who graduates has missed out on so many opportunities because of COVID, because of being masked at school, because of me having to go virtual back and forth. I have so much to say, but I actually sent it in an email. I'm with these parents. I really prefer that you guys could all stand with us and get our kids unmasked. Hopefully before next year. Thank you.
My name is Shelby Paul. I have a first grader in Will LE, and I'm also a first responder, so I've been on the front lines of this the entire time. I will tell you right now, these masks are not working. One, they are giving major mental issues with all these children. I have never dealt with more mental health issues or suicides ever in my career. Okay, these kids are not healthy right now wearing these masks. My son comes home every day with anxiety from just his face shield because I've had to go to a doctor and literally fight with a doctor to make sure that he does not have these problems. At the beginning of the 2021, in January of our school year, okay, our school had an outbreak of strep throat that most people don't realize. And this is proven by the doctors here in our township in Richmond, okay? If all these kids are wearing masks, how is strep throat going around their school? Strep throat is much, much, much larger than COVID-19, okay? So many things are wrong with this. Our freedoms have been taken away. Our 4th and 14th Amendment rights have been taken away from us to let us make the choices as parents, as good parents. And we're good parents here. There's a lot of bad parents in this world. Let me tell you, I see it firsthand, okay? And we've been ripped of that, and it's not fair. There's a lot of kids in our school district that aren't even vaccinated for our normal vaccines, like the chickenpox or polio, or anything like that, that we, most of us in this room, have, okay? And they're FDA approved. But now we are being forced, possibly, to have to vaccinate our kid with a vaccine that's not FDA approved. Our own military won't even give our troops this vaccine because it's not approved. It doesn't work. There's major blood clots. There's all kinds of different things that are in this that people don't realize. There's a penicillin factor on it. People are allergic to penicillin. People are dying from these complications. And I want our 21-22 school year to go great for all these kids that aren't able to be with their friends to come back and have a normal life. Our children should not have to carry the burdens that they are carrying. You can call us bad parents because they see everything on the news or social media or whatever it is. They feel everything that we are going through. None of us want our kids to go through that. None of us want our grandchildren to go through that. No one wants to sit there and sometimes, even though Richmond schools, I will give you the credit, you guys have gone above and beyond to make sure that each kid gets lunch and free. I do appreciate that very much because at one point I was at mom struggling, okay? But there are kids who don't get to that bus to get that free lunch. There are kids who the domestic violence in their house is so much worse, and the escape to school to be with friends and be known for 5 minutes is so important. These are numbers that people aren't talking about right now. So I would like our Board of Education, the people that we voted for, to do the right thing and just let people make the choice. That's all. No one wants to sit there and be told what to do. You want to wear a mask? Cool. You want to get the vaccine? Cool. That's fine. It's more than fine. If you don't, cool. All right. I'm still, still come to school, still hang out with friends, still get to learn from your teachers. Let the teachers take their masks off. No one can read or learn how to do certain things when you're covered like this. Can you hear or see how my mouth is going in order for a first or kindergarten or second grader or anybody else to learn how to read? Our children's academic skills are completely out the window. They're not succeeding in life. They're not going anywhere at this point because they're stuck. And we now need to lift them up and make them proud Blue Devils. That's what they need to do. So I hope that you guys do the right thing, stand with many other schools in our state and say, no, we're not doing this. We're going to allow our parents and our teachers to make the decision for themselves. That's all we're asking as moms and parents and dads and grandmas and grandpas and everybody else. I emailed everybody. Everyone got my email. Just take a second to read it. I would greatly appreciate it. All of us moms in this corner or throughout the room here would greatly appreciate it if you take all of our opinions into consideration. Thank you for hearing me. And I hope we do have a very good next school year. Thank you guys very much.
Shelby, are you okay then? I don't need to read your email.
I would like if you read it.
Okay.
There are some questions at the end of the email.
She did send an email. She requested that it be read, so I will do that once we're all
Yeah, you don't
finished.
gotta read it to me, but it just personally each of
Okay.
you would be great. There are some questions at the end and things that I want to do that. I originally was not supposed to be here, but it's fell into place and I was able to speak until I can speak.
Thank you. Be there no other public comments for this section. We are going to move on to our presentation on the budget.
Okay.
One more.
Hi, I'm Alina. I am 10 years old and I love Richmond schools, but this year not so much. I attended Richmond schools K through 3rd and I had amazing teachers and substitute teachers. I only got to do half of 3rd grade in person because of COVID. This year I was homeschooled because I did not want to wear a mask for 7 hours a day. I already had to wear a mask since first. You have heard children say that the mask hurt them, and I'm saying it hurt me too. I come home with my throat hurting every day wearing a mask all day. My brother is going to kindergarten and I'm going to middle school. I want my brother to have a great kindergarten year and I want to have a normal middle school. Please remove the mask mandate or I will not be attending Richmond schools until you do. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to our budget. Mr. Walmsley?
Okay, we have spoken the last couple of months regarding next year's budget. In your packet, we have the latest. The budget still assumes a flat enrollment. It still assumes $100 per pupil. One of the things that I would like to say is that on Friday, the Revenue Estimating Conference was held, and they used this conference to identify revenue for the school districts for the upcoming school year. One of the things that was revealed in Friday's conference was the estimates that they made last January compared to this May. The school aid fund is up $1 billion. So there is no reason that the state can't fund public education the way it should. For those out in the audience, I'll just say this. I know many of you have talked to representatives and the board. I know you've talked to them. I had a conversation with Representative Yarich last week. My fear is that they're going to put us in the middle or create some deal that's going to be cut in order to get this money. We've sat at this table every year for every board member who's been on the board and previous one. We do have to let our voices be heard that those dollars need to go to the local districts, and the locals should have the authority on where those dollars are allocated. So I'll just leave it with that one. So I will turn it over to Tammy. She's going to update you. We have some numbers that have come in since our last board meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to Tammy Shad, our business director.
We've added two things basically to the budget at this point in our assumptions. We did get a number, an estimate from Home ISD on how much we will be receiving in the enhancement millage. So that has been added. If you look at page 205 of the budget discussion, at the bottom there's a highlighted area which indicates that we increased the MISD enhancement millage revenue by about $70,000, which brings up to about $700,000. So that is one change in the budget of two. The second change was what you requested us to do at the last meeting, which was to add the EMT program to the expenses. So that has been done. That cost is about $40,000 between contract and supplies. Then we put in an updated comparison sheet. It's a 3-page document. On the first page, it indicates our revenues. You can see under inter-district sources that there is a new number. It's highlighted, $727,000, which is an increase of about $70,000. That's on page 1 of 3. On the bottom of that same page is where we've added the vocational education, the EMT class. That number is highlighted as well. That's just under 450,000. In total, it brings our revenues, when we add the increase in the interdistrict sources from Macomb ISD, brings our revenues to just over $17,637,000. And when we add the expenses for the EMT program, it brings our expenditures to just over $17,605,000. So at this point, based on all the assumptions we've been using, our budget shows that our revenues exceed our expenses by about $32,000. If you have any questions on it at this point?
So just to recap, this puts 4 sections of kindergarten, 5 sections of the other grade levels. It adds a 5th section of 4th grade for next year. It adds a teacher at the high school to eliminate teachers teaching on their prep. And then all the other things that we've discussed. So we'll open up for any discussions or any adjustments you may have in the budget or requests. Because at the next board meeting would be when we need to have the final that this is what we need to build the budget on. We'll have the budget hearing on the June 28th at 6:30, the truth and budget, and then we'll officially approve the budget during the board meeting on the 20th. So, any questions? Comments?
Is this where we have the discussion? So we know we're getting an increase in the enhancement millage, year 2, of $70,000. So is this where we have the conversation where we talk about the pay to play? Would this be the point?
Yeah, if this is something the board wants to entertain or to reduce, eliminate, as we've talked in the past, this would be the time that we'd have that conversation. And just to remind the board, we built the budget on a $100 per pupil increase, which was the lowest of all 3 budgets. So yes, that's something the board would like to consider.
Because we have talked about it before, and just with, this is the enhancement millage, this is the 10 years worth of guaranteed money, if you will. And so I would just like to entertain the conversation of eliminating pay to play for the duration of the enhancement millage, at least.
Are you saying we're currently still 32,000 under?
Currently, the budget as we're approving, or I should say approving, as we're looking at now, with the assumption, we have 32,000 more revenue than we have expenses.
Okay.
We do have to negotiate, though, remember, our teacher contract.
Yeah. And I would like to see money maybe go into maybe more our music and arts department before athletics, if we did have it over. There are still students, and those are grade curriculum, you know, as far as band and art classes, and there's still fees and supplies to students. I would like to see some of the dollars used for that. And then I would like to look into addressing pay to play, but maybe not, or pay to participate, but maybe not at this time.
So what are you talking about? The art and music and that, what additional stuff do we need?
Well, it costs currently marching band students $107 a year for marching band. And then art supplies for students, there's, you know, I would rather see more supplies going into our art department than some of our graded curriculum before athletics.
We did build in the budget, just if you recall, when we did the course catalog, some of the art programs to give them a line item so that we weren't charging fees for those kids. And it's new this year, so it may be going into next year, I should say.
But what students pay, which I'm not, you know, but I know that there's not enough art supplies within the classroom. And sometimes, you know, students have to pay that out of pocket.
Are we're short art supplies for students?
For them to take home and complete
No, I mean,
art
Mr.
projects.
Wong's the question.
Oh, wow. From my personal experience.
I can't speak to Mrs. Lucido's personal, but I have not been told for sure. That'd be a conversation I gotta have with each of the buildings. Every year, budgets are always tight. I mean, there's never a time that I think they feel like they've got a surplus of money sitting there. So they're very strategic and cautious or wise on how they spend it. So, but I've never been told that we have no supplies or
No, and I'm great
or
for
not
a
enough
wonderful
supplies.
art department. I'm not saying that that's not what I'm implying. I'm just saying if we have extra, I would prefer to see go into greater curriculum first, in my opinion.
Okay, well, I don't disagree that that's important. I just want to know the answer. Are we lacking in that area? Are we missing something? Because we've never been told that. As any budget, as we're talking, as we're line items and stuff we're doing, I want an answer to that question.
So could we check with our teachers and just see where we're at? And then what is, you said there's $100 and some fee to the marching band?
Yes.
Do you know what that's for?
I have no idea.
I believe it's it's through the band booster, so I'm not quite sure where it goes through. I'm not sure if it's for,
It might be for marching band camp, but I can look into it.
yes, you can look into it.
If we could
Yes,
just check on
would be
that
great.
too, please.
And I know like we currently, some school districts, we cover the cost of instruments. Our district does not. That might be something you want to look into.
Do we know how much our pay-to-play brings in? Or
I would defer to Tammy on that chart she ran.
On the high end, we bring in about net between what we collect and we pay out for the parents who do the work that are the. On the high end, it was 73,000. On the low end, last year was 47,000. But normally it averages around 68,000 per year, which is about 14 to 15% of the athletic budget.
is there any concern that if we get rid of the pay-to-play and we cover it, people helping us out? Like working at, I know now we have parents who work at the booth, who work, and
That's always a conversation we have, because there are some parents who will help out and work and do a million activities, and there's some that I believe work out to get the reimbursement, so it's not, I don't think I can put a number on it. I think that's a concern that we would have.
Yeah, I feel to eliminate it totally, you would miss out on people volunteering, and you already have an issue getting people to help, so, they can earn their money back, at least for pay to participate they can. So, unlike for curriculum, there's no way to earn your money back, you're just paying it. So, I kind of like the idea, Angela, about using the curriculum, and I wouldn't mind maybe cutting pay to participate.
That's what I'm wondering, maybe
$25
if we
or something.
reduce it down or.
Something, but not just to eliminate it totally.
Would we like to hear some figures on what we asked Mr. Walmsley before we kind of went further with it, or would it make a difference?
I don't know what anyone else thinks. I think we should eliminate.
Just
I think
eliminate it
that's
altogether.
the enhancement millage and that coming in. I mean, we had pay to play for 35 years. It would be nice to figure out a way to relieve that for a certain period of time. But if the majority of the board doesn't want to do that, then we don't do it. And there would be no reason to look at numbers and all that kind of stuff. If I'm the only one that thinks that that's a good idea, then I'm the only one that thinks it's a good idea. We move on.
I think it's a great idea, but it's not at this time. I would like to still see some numbers. Maybe we can look at it for, next year or the following year. I totally think that we should reassess our pay to participate program as a whole. Maybe, like you said, maybe give it, cut some off, maybe not so expensive, or a little bit less, cheaper on some, but I would like to look at it, but I don't know if I necessarily want to just right now get rid of it for the life of the village, like you were. But does anybody else want to still look at numbers, or? Or am I the only one that wants to look at numbers?
Well, I think we have to get the answers on the curriculum part, because there should never be lack of anything in a classroom that's not acceptable. So if that is in fact true, that is first and foremost, that can't happen.
But I mean, arts beyond, it's kind of like a music thing. You can't possibly have everything you need within this. So I'm not saying that, our art department is lacking in supplies. They are statewide. So I'd like to see more on that for sure.
So can I just a clarification? Am I
Sure.
looking at, do they haven't done activity because they don't have supplies, or they haven't done certain things because they don't
I
have
would just
supplies?
like you to get feedback on if they feel like they could use more money for more supplies in the classrooms. I know that students, I have to buy, stuff at home for my son because that project needs to be done at home too. So I'm buying a whole nother art studio at home because she doesn't have enough to send kids home with stuff, is my point. So I'm not saying that it needs to be, just, I guess, maybe some feedback from them.
Are you saying send home because it's,
That's what I'm
of this year?
It's because of this
virtual
year.
situation?
Because of this year, not just this year, some things, I mean, I could downplay my kids' art and say we can't afford that and let's do a smaller idea. Sure, we've done that in the past. But I'm saying if there was more supplies that were able to go around through in the classroom and out of the classroom, it would definitely help.
Well, I still think that all comes down to that there's not enough, something's missing. And if that's true, we have to find out what is missing and how to rectify it. You can't have an art class that doesn't have enough supplies for students, plain and simple. And that's what you're saying.
I'm saying we would need more, yeah.
You're saying we don't have enough.
That we need more than we have currently.
Well, I guess I would start with, a couple of years ago, we had created line item budgets for each of the areas. So I'll first start with, are they even spending what we gave them? And the answer is no. Then I'd have to figure out, okay, what's the reason why they're not?
Could one of the questions be, what are they asking parents to spend for art or band? Like, what are they asking parents to buy?
They aren't. There's no, I mean, for band, of course, I have to pay for my, student's instrument, and then you have to pay for, we have to pay for their own books, for their music books, those kinds of things. And then we have to buy t-shirts, because they need t-shirts when they go and play as a group, when they go out in competitions. So, but as far as art goes, that's on our own. That's on our own, and just from what I get feedback from my students that have participated in art, that there's not enough to all go home. You can't take my project home and start working on it because the paints are here. It would be, not that there's not enough, like I said, but it would go over better if there was more in art scope. But there's no specific thing I've been charged for in art as a parent, is my point.
And that you said in the music class, the notebooks?
They're music books.
So we don't provide the music book
No.
for music students? Well, that's not acceptable if that's true. I mean, that's the whole argument that I've had for years.
So when we
And
went
have
to
these-
switching the budget.
You have these classes, curriculum-related stuff, and that needs to be provided in the classroom. So if you're saying that's not happening, that's a deeper look in what something's not right.
And they're reasonable. They're not expensive textbooks like that.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so would we like Mr. Walmsley to get some answers to some of these questions before we even look at that pay-to-play piece?
Well, it's not only pay to play, but you can't really move much farther talking about a budget if there's concerns like this. If this is true, it's a whole different ballgame on what you're talking about for your budget that you're going to approve.
So could you please investigate our bands, our arts, even choir? I don't know if choir has some
What are we
issues.
asking parents to buy? What are the fees going to? Are there enough supplies? Checking with teachers and band, getting the music, question on the music books.
The bottom line is, are we not providing
in our budget what we need to educate the kids in those curriculum-based areas? That's the question. It's either yes or no. And if it's no, then it's a list of what we're not doing.
That's correct.
Right.
And also, that might only, if we don't eliminate it, can we maybe get like a break for 2 or 3 sport athletes? Can we toss a number around like that?
I'd like to take a look at it. I'm with Angela or even Margaret and Kyle. I'd like to take a look at our pay to play and what can we do with it.
This is the perfect time to do it.
To do it, absolutely.
Because of the enhancement millage. It's the perfect time.
So can we, Brian, if you get those numbers and figures, we can have another conversation at the next board meeting? Is that, okay, does that sound good? Okay, is there anything else we need to add with the budget?
Budgeting for the first.
I'm sorry.
Budgeting for the turf.
That's gonna be my next question.
Oh, budgeting for the turf.
We got to replace the 12 years.
This budget does not have any allocation for church. It does not have any allocation for buses. It has no allocation for technology once the bond project expires.
So
now we held off for the year because of with the enhancement millage first starting in that, but talking about the bus purchase and the wear and tear on that field. I mean, we're now going into year 2. It's just going to get closer to that 10-year period if we don't throw out the dollar.
Are we supposed to be doing something yearly on the field?
Ideally, what you want to work towards is, if you take buses, for example, we have a little over 10 runs. I think we have 13 runs that we have. A bus typically lasts about 10 years. So you roughly replace the bus every 10 years. So ideally, you want to have like a line item with $100,000 in it so that it stays there every year as a supply or purchase service, so that you're buying a new bus every year and rotating your bus fleet. We've had the good fortune from the community on the last bond and this bond to build in bus purchases, which would give as a board collectively, maybe you put, and I'm just making this number, 50,000 in this year, 25 this year. Add another, you're not going to spend it next year, but it's there. Now you add another 25 following year to get up to that 100,000. Same concept with the turf. At some point in 10 years, 12 years from now, you're going to have a turf bill that'll have to be replaced. And so the idea is to start putting money away so that you have that.
So the original plan was like $80,000 for 10 years.
Right.
So we skipped one, so we're $90,000 for 9 years.
Right. Got it. So I think if you're talking about your conversation you've got to have a conversation that brings in a dollar amount, and that for Brian to bring to us of what we want to do with respect to the turf. And
the buses.
And if we want to do it for the bus, you've got to have $2
So you
figures.
have turf, buses, and then your technology. With the ESSER funds we have, all of our technology will, for next year, will be updated in the last 3 years. The oldest laptop for next year, the oldest laptop will be 3 years old.
Got it. So we should almost be doing the same thing with the laptops.
Setting aside money.
Setting something aside so we can,
So when
At
they
least
start,
starting to think that in the next year.
we're going to have to buy some.
Yep.
So would you give us some numbers or give us some idea of what those 3 items, that we could start putting something away so that when those things come up, that money's there and we're not trying to figure out how to pay it?
Well, let's give guidance though, maybe $1
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking,
amount
$1
from us that said, what
what
we're
do we
looking at
think?
that we want to do. I think with the turf, it's a no-brainer. We've got $90,000 for this, it's $10,000
A year?
I think.
for the turf, you'd be looking
For the
at
turf.
800,000 for 10 years. You'd have to be putting away $80,000 a
Yeah,
year.
but you
So
said,
that in
what were you
10
talking
years,
about?
you-
No, I said we skipped 1 year,
You
so
skipped a year.
we'd be at 90,000 for 9 years.
Right.
I think it'll last longer than 10 years,
Yeah.
but that's worst case scenario.
So after 10 years, you have to replace the whole thing.
Approximately.
Not the whole thing, you just refill it with the pellets, but it is expensive.
So for that, then we need 90,000.
If you're trying to get in 10 years, the cost of the replacement term at that year, in 10 years prices, what it's going to cost in 10 years, it's roughly 90,000 for the next 9 years. I'll get you the number, and
Okay.
if we're setting a target year that you want to have the dollars in, we'll back that down and split it up. So church, bus, and technology, looking at some options for pay to participate, such as potential breaks for multi-sports, band art, what's required or part of the curriculum that we're asking parents in some fashion to support. That's not part of the school budget in general.
Okay. Anything else on the budget piece?
No.
Okay, we have a second public comment section. Any member of the public may address the board at this time. Please state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, my name's Monica Nicolopoulos. I was here back in October, and then we got shut down because of COVID. But I'd like to please watch a board meeting on May 26, 2015. And at minute mark 57, you will hear Mr. Kirkendorf ask the question about replacing laptops and not wanting to hit a brick wall in 5 or 6 years when these go bad. This is from the first bond. And if you listen really close, you're going to hear Vicki Lasky state that the plan is to set bond money aside for replacements in 2018, which, as far as I know, didn't happen. So where did the money go? And Mrs. Telto, you were at that meeting, and you didn't have any objections to when Vicki said that this was part of the plan. Okay, so these laptops are 6 years old, and half the high school is still using them. They're completely inadequate, and I know because I worked at the RMS Media Center, and before I left in September 2020, they were crap. That's just my opinion. And also for Mr. Walmsley, when the new 4th grade was coming over, you said there was going to be, I think it was $400 or some money set aside to get 4th grade appropriate books for the class that came in 2019. When I left in September 2020, that money had still not been allocated. Those books were still not received. So it had been over a year. So where did that money go? And it's just all about accountability. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Ashley Marshall. I've introduced myself first time. This is really quick, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but I sort of heard your comment to us parents about the funding. So from what I caught, it sounded like there was threats that the funding would be taken away if you guys don't comply. So my questions is, who is this who's threatening to take the funding away? How is this legal? I sincerely would just like to understand this better so that we can, as parents, stand up and fight against this as well. This sounds like it's a big issue and concern for you. And I'm wondering, I do know a little bit about the ESSER funding. And I'm wondering if is it that funding that's being threatened? Is it our general funding that is being threatened? And I guess this is just another example of something we need to stand up and fight against, because I'm sure all of you don't appreciate your authority being questioned and threatened to take funding away from you guys and your decision making for our school. So I believe that's all. I just want to understand better, and hopefully, again, this is something that we can fight against if this is going to be the main concern we have for next school year.
Any other public comments? Okay, Mr. Walmsley, Superintendent and Legislative Update.
Okay, I will start with graduation is this Wednesday for the class of 2021 at Jimmy John's Field. We're excited to be able to have a graduation ceremony in a venue where we can have as many people that we're allowed to. The changing rules has been challenging, but I think we have a plan that is good for all. Assuming the board allows the return to learning plan or their extended COVID plan to allow for awards and assemblies and so forth, we have our upcoming awards by grade levels, beginning with the class of 2022 11th graders, all the way down to the class of 2035, which would be our 3-year-old preschool. A couple months ago, we talked about the 3rd grade retention law, and last year it was passed in 2016. Last year they waived it because of the pandemic. This year they took the position they weren't waiving it. So basically what it meant was any student that did not make the cut score of, I believe it was 1250 on the ELA M-STEP this year, a 3rd grader, was going to be getting a letter from the state of Michigan saying that they would be retained. I am happy to announce that as of today, not one 3rd grader in our district will receive that letter. So that is kudos to our staff and to our students and the families for their support in getting our students above that cut score. This should not be a decision made at the state level. This should be a decision that's made with the classroom teacher and the parent. In the way the current law reads, it's a decision I have to make. Who knows the least about a student's individual progress on a day-to-day basis. I talked to you about the Consensus Revenue Conference. As with anytime there's dollars that are extra in an account for a federal or state level, people try to put in deals and get their pet projects in and so forth. So hopefully the legislators and the governor will realize it needs to be on the per pupil so that we can, all schools in the state can benefit. Just to clarify, nobody is threatening to hold money, but if you look at the history of the way things have happened, the deals were cut in August, and we had to do this return to learning plan or extended COVID learning plan that we're here every month reviewing. That was a deal cut to release funding and give us the federal dollars that came to the state. The ESSER $3, I remember we're on ESSER 2, have not been fully allocated, and that was the federal dollars that were given in December under President Trump. The ESSER $3, which is the 1.7 for Richmond, still isn't fully allocated yet because they're still battling that in Lansing. So these are the dollars that are being held up in negotiations by both parties to try to make change in. And that's what I worry about is a deal's going to get cut that they think on the surface level is not so bad, but when you look at the implementation level, it is it's not good for kids and districts and local decisions. So that's what I meant, but then I'd be more than happy to talk to you or any parent on what we can do and keep them updated on what's going on in Lansing. As you know, we're watching the governor's releasing, or I guess I shouldn't say the governor, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services easing up on mask restrictions, and we're really watching what that's going to lend to in the fall. I was extremely proud of this district, and I still am proud of what we put together last fall because it really was about where people's, if they felt comfortable and so forth. Some of the outside agencies, it was done by the governor first from her executive orders, and then now through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services through their emergency orders, mandating kind of how we have to operate, which I think it's left to us making the decision what's in our best interest. I think this board and the past boards have shown they do want the best interest for our child, and they know our students better than individuals up in Lansing. Just kind of scroll through here. That's it.
Okay. Item of interest from the board, we'll start. Mr. Simmons, anything?
Nothing tonight.
Mrs. Pacito?
I would just like to say thank you to all the parents that showed up to speak tonight. It was great to hear all of your thoughts. They were very well spoken, and I know we all as a board will take them to heart, and I appreciate you stepping up for our students and for our children. Thank you.
Mrs. Seymour?
Same thing. Thank you, parents. A lot of us are in the same boat. We have children of our own in this district, and it's hard. It's difficult for them to come home every day and have to do this. And I had a child that was quarantined as well and not able to do sports at school. It's tough. It's hard. I guess my question is kind of to Brian, and I don't know if you can answer this. I know I see a lot of things from other districts that are stating that they're not going to do the masks and not do this and not do that. How is it that they're able to do that? I mean, is that something that you can answer?
Several of the letters that I have received from other districts, if you have a specific district, I can look more in detail, but the ones that I've seen, they've taken a position to ask the legislators or whoever they're directing it to, that they don't agree with it, they need to reconsider it. They walk that fine line without saying they're going to violate it, but they take a very strong position, that they don't agree with it and that it needs to be overturned and so forth. I'm not aware of a specific district that is taking the position that says we are not going to do what the Health and Human Services health laws are mandating schools to do. But they are districts, they've taken a stance as a board or an organization that we want them to reconsider and we want it to be in a different. If that's something I can get, the board wishes to entertain, I can get some sample letters in writing and.
I would.
They're just resolutions though at this point. Right?
Some of our resolutions, some of our letters that they've sent to the governor and their legislators and pretty much anybody and everybody that will listen to understand their position as a board or as a school community. There's one, and forgive me, I can't think of the name of the district off the top of my head. There's multiple people that cited not only the school, but school community members. I believe like the mayor and city council and stuff like that was also part of it. So, but I'm drawing a blank on the name.
I would definitely like to look into that.
Mrs. Calto?
Nope.
Mrs. Dooley?
Yes, I'd like to also thank the parents who got up and spoke tonight. It's great to hear what you're thinking and feeling. I don't have young children in public schools anymore, so thank you for coming out.
And I too just want to reiterate what all of our other board members have said. I appreciate our parents coming out. I too no longer have kids in the district, but I have a lot of relations and people in here, and I know that people are struggling. I even want to compliment our young students who stepped up tonight. I know it's hard to come up to the podium and to speak in front of a group, so I appreciate them stepping up too. And we will consider what you said tonight. Okay, we are now to action items. Okay. I am looking for an motion to approve, or actually to amend, I believe, our extended COVID-19 learning plan. Yeah, first one, because we're amending it.
Our motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent as presented in the attached documentation and approve the amendment to the extended COVID-19 learning plan discussed with these amendments discussed, considered, and directed by the Board of Education at the May 24th, 2021 board meeting. This action amends how the plan is logistically implemented, but not how instruction is to be delivered, provided an opportunity for parents and our guardians to provide public comment on the plan and recorded a weekly two-way interaction rate.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion, or I'm looking for a motion for the approval of resolution to designate electoral representative that cast a vote on behalf of the Richmond Board of Education at the MISD election meeting.
Do we want to talk about it first? Because the motion talks about the name of the person. So if we don't have a conversation about it, how are we going to vote?
If this particular one, at the first meeting, you picked who's voting, and now you need to tell the person who they're voting for.
Got it.
So, and there are two candidates.
So can we do that? Can we talk first then? Okay, so there's only the two, and I don't know about you, but I only received something from Teresa. I did not receive anything in the mail from Sarah. So I don't know what anybody.
I only got the one as well.
Anybody get anything different? I went to a website, the MISD, could not find anything there either. Trying to get some information on the other candidate. So my vote is for Teresa.
I agree.
Margaret?
I motion to direct
Okay, thank you.
Sherry Zuby or Margaret Telto as the alternate, as the electoral representative and alternative electoral representative for Richmond Community Schools to cast a vote on behalf of this Board of Education for Teresa Janae at the Macomb Intermediate School District biennial election meeting on June 7, 2021, as outlined in the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the student discipline hearing. This would be on student 0524221A.
I motion the following closed session student discipline hearing. The board votes to suspend student 052421-A through the end of the first quarter of the 2021-2022 school day, consistent with the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need another motion for a student discipline hearing for student 052421-B.
I motion the following closed session student discipline hearing. The board votes to suspend student 052421-B through the first quarter of the 2021-2022 school year, consistent with the attached resolution.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I need a motion for the approval of a 3-year agreement between the Board of Education of Richmond Community Schools and Teamsters State, County, and Municipal Workers, Local 214, Richmond Administrators Association.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve a 3-year contract between the Board of Education and Teamsters State, County, and Municipal Workers, Local 214, Richmond Administrators Association, as outlined in the attached document.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion?
Is that Bridget who supported it?
That was me.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion for the approval of the superintendent evaluation goals and measurement.
I motion to approve the evaluation goals for the superintendent as outlined in the attached documentation.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion?
The only thing that I had that I brought up to Deb that's still here, I don't understand why the superintendent has to keep a file of sample documents that were disseminated to the public, because we all get them. So I don't support that part.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is going to be different on the approval of our commemoration of the school building. After we reviewed the board policy, it is required to go to a committee of 3. That committee, the presentation will be given to that committee, and then the committee will then bring back a recommendation to this board. So I am looking first for someone who is interested, who wants to be on that committee. Again, we need 3. I know Margaret has already said she would be. I need 2 other people who would be interested in meeting with the people who want to give this presentation. Okay, so I have Angela and Kyle. Is that what I heard? And Margaret. Did you say?
Yeah, I heard Sherry.
Did I hear 2? Okay.
Can the committee be more than 3 people?
No.
The board policy sets a committee of 3. I do know that we're going to try to do this quickly because their goal is to have this up at that first football game when we play Clintondale. So we'll be working with the people who wants to do the presentation. Okay, do I need to make a motion here? Or do we need an action item?
I don't think you need a motion. You just, you have a committee of 3 that want to do it. And then the committee, like, I will reach out to Nick about setting that up.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Angela or Sherry?
You can go from.
Angela's on it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the 3-year agreement between the Board of Ed of Richmond Community Schools and the Food Service Bargaining Unit.
I'm looking to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the 3-year contract between the Board of Education and Food Service Bargaining Unit as outlined in the attached document.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There being no further business, the board will adjourn at 10:10.